The stock brake rotors and pads on your F-150 were never much to write home about, so why not replace them with StopTech's complete front and rear street axle pack kit and give your F-150 the stopping power it really deserves. This total brake system overhaul replaces all 4 of your factory blank rotors with StopTech's sport drilled and slotted rotors and pairs them up with a full set of their street performance brake pads, which work together to provide your F-150 with more bite, less fade, and more consistent braking performance even when you're towing or hauling heavy loads. After removing our wheels, we started on the front brakes and removed the 2 bolts on the back of the caliper that hold it to the bracket. This will allow us to remove the caliper from the pads and bracket. Tie the caliper out of the way so that there is no stress on the brake line. Our old brake pads will now pull right out of the caliper bracket. Then the 2 bolts on the back of the bracket can be removed so that we can take the bracket from the spindle. Since the rotor has gone through so many heat cycles, you might need the assistance of a hammer to break it loose from the hub, then remove the rotor. To freshen up our caliper bracket, take some brake cleaner and wash off any excess brake dust. Then take the bracket over to your bench and remove the 4 brake pad clips from the corners. You can see here where the brake pad wears down on the clips, which is why our replacement kit includes new ones to snap on in their place. To prevent the rotor from sticking to the hub in the future, spread a layer of anti-seize on the hub where the rotor will touch, then install the new rotor with a lug nut to hold it in place for now. The bracket can be reattached to the spindle and bolted back down. We next need to compress the caliper pistons back into the caliper. So take an old brake pad with a caliper tool to compress the piston even with the rubber seals. Install the new pads on each side of the rotor in the bracket, then slide on the caliper over the new pads. Tighten the bolts holding the caliper to the bracket to finish the front brake install. Now for the rear brakes, install is very similar to the fronts. Unbolt the caliper from the bracket and slide the caliper off of the old brake pads. We set it on the rear leaf spring to avoid stress on the brake line. The pads can come off next and they slide out just like the front. You can see the huge difference here in the contact patch alone compared to stock. There is much more area on the StopTech replacement. Now onto the 2 bracket bolts to remove it from the rear axle. We also sprayed a bit of penetrating oil to help remove the old rotors. Once they are off, we did the same anti-seize trick as in the front, then slid on the new rotor with a lug nut. Again, we cleaned off the brackets and began to replace the brake pad clips. The rears are slightly different in that they only have 2 clips per bracket instead of 4. Compress the single piston back into the rear caliper, then you can reattach the bracket back to the rear hub. Slide in our new brake pads, then the caliper is ready to be reinstalled over the pads and rotor. Tighten up the rear caliper bolts to finish the entire install. Also, be sure to follow StopTech's break-in procedure for your new set of brakes. Instructions will be included in your kit. With the drilled and slotted version of StopTech's brakes installed on our 2014 Tremor project truck and the drilled version installed on our 2014 F150 STX hunting truck, we made sure to put them both through their paces both on and off the road. Both StopTech kits did a great job of reducing fade during hard braking, especially on down slopes and declines. While the included pads do put out less dust than stock, they do produce at least some dust, which is especially visible on our Tremor's machined method wheels. The rotors on both kits are outright impressive, and their extra E-coating on the hub and vanes have them looking great and fairly free from corrosion. In the end, we're happy with both of our StopTech kits, though you'll have to decide for yourself if your needs warrant the extra cost of StopTech's brake kits over some of the competition. Head on over to our website or click the link in the description below to find out more information on this brake kit. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for the latest F150 news and updates.